What's up, my wizards? It's Dev here with Igby from Mtg. Down there, we like magic. And guess what happened today? Something magical. We got 3 leaks from Hour of Devastation, and they're leaks from Wizards. So if you want to, I guess you could just call them previews. But they're technically leaks, and some of them are awesome. So let's go ahead and look at these 3 cards. Here's Bontu's Last Reckoning right here. It's 3 mana, 1 and 2 black for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures. That's a good first line of text. Lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. That's a bad second line of text. Okay, so I understand that there's a fair amount of hype for this card. I get that. It totally makes sense, right? But I would hold my horses for time being. I am not as hype about this card as a lot of people are, and I got my reasons. First of all, for the next 5 months or so, the most important deck in the format is Aetherworks Marvel, unless they ban Aetherworks Marvel. And this isn't great against them. Like, they play Whirler Virtuoso, which can make them some flying guys that you might care about. They play like Rogue Refiner, Servant of the Conduit. Like, they play creatures, and you might want to wipe their board, but it's not imperative that you wipe their board as soon as possible. And like, once they do get their Ulamog, this doesn't kill it. So against Aetherworks, I'm not sure that this is incredible or anything. And then like against zombies, which is still a deck, you know, it's not great either, because like they're just going to be able to get back Dread Wanderers, Relentless Deads and stuff. They're going to be able to eventually get back Scrap Heap Scroungers if you're playing against some zombies decks, and like pretty much every Mardu deck, you know, right now, or any vehicles deck that includes black. Scrap Heap Scrounger looks really good against this because they get to get it back and get an attack step with it in before you can untap. So, like, I am not 100% sure. Like, it doesn't exile anything, which is something I guess I'm spoiled on at this point. So I just, like, okay. Sweltering Suns is already really good against zombies. Like, its inclusion in blue-red, control decks has sort of swung the pendulum a little bit more towards blue-red control against zombies, even though zombies is supposed to be really good against blue-red control, right? So, sweepers, whether they exile or not, are pretty good against zombies. We've already seen that in practice in the current format. So I just don't think that this is, I don't want to say this is awful or anything, because it's not. It's obviously a 3 mana unconditional board wipe. That's good. It's very good. But in the control decks that want to play this card, it's great that it's 3 mana. You know, you can play this as a sweeper early game and not die to aggro. That's what you care about. Don't get me wrong. But it also means that for the next couple of turns, you're not countering spells, and you're not killing creatures, and you're not drawing cards. Now, if you draw this on turn 6 or 7, and you blow open the whole board, and you've survived that long, you blow everything up, then yeah, you'll still have some mana to work with. That's a situation where the card shines, but obviously the card is priced so aggressively so that you cast it on your turn 3 to get out of situations where, like, you're going to die. So, in those situations, I'm just not sure that it'll always be worth essentially time walking yourself when you're playing control. That loss of tempo is really bad, especially against creatures that can come back and stuff. And like, we're in a meta right now where, like, unless you're playing against zombies, you're probably not, you don't have to wipe the board on turn 3. If you're playing against Marvel, it's not imperative. If you're playing against blue-red control, it's not imperative. So I'm not 100% sure, guys. I think the card is obviously playable, but how playable, we'll see. Is it main deckable as a 2-of? Is it only sideboard playable? We'll have to wait and see. I think that at some point during its life cycle, it's probably going to see main deck play if aggro comes back to prominence. But right now, it's a lot of control. It's a lot of Marvel, So I'm not sure how important the card actually is at present. I don't know, man. Just let me know how you feel about this card in the comments. I know there's a lot of hype for it, but I'm just trying to remain grounded, and I'm just not 100% sure about it. Like, Commander, yes, you'll play the card, but it's just, I think that there's problems. Speaking of problems, here's Samut the Tested right here. We'll discuss. It's 4 mana, 2, a red and a green for 4 loyalty Planeswalker Samut. And you can +1 her to have up to 1 target creature gain double strike until end of turn. If you -2 Samut, then she'll deal 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 target creatures and or players. So you basically get 2 damage you can split. You can hit players or creatures with it. And then if you -7 her, this is the good part, you search your library for up to 2 target creatures and or planeswalker cards, you put them onto the battlefield, and then you shuffle your library. Okay, so my first inclination with this card is to be like, well, Arlen is probably better, and Arlen doesn't see any play, right? So I'm not like super impressed right from the jump on this card, or with this card, but it does have some promise to it only because of that ultimate. And yeah, I know it's like 4 turns away from when you play the card, but right now we've got like Maulfist Revolutionary. That's a possibility, and I guess there's even Skyship Plunderer if you want to go teamer. But like, we've got stuff that if you wanted to be cute, you could cheat your way to her ultimate, and her ultimate is extremely powerful. That is really, really good to be able to basically tooth and nail, you know. That's very good. So right now, we see a deck that on turn 4 puts an Ulamog into play, and it's the best deck in the format. This costs 4 mana to play, just like Marvel, but you're not going to be able to ultimate her on that turn. Now, you could cheat it into play with some ramp, you know, any 2 mana ramp guy will put this into play turn 3. And then turn 4, I guess you could like Malphus Revolutionary, and then find a way to kill the Malphus Revolutionary, and then she's ready to go next turn. That's turn 5. Like, there's math that you're doing with this card, but I'm not sure in the end that it's even worth it. Now, like a turn 5 Tooth and Nail in Standard seems very good. Maybe not quite broken, but really, really good. And like, it just puts the card directly on the battlefield, so like you won't get cast triggers with Ulamog, so that sort of helps balance it a little bit. But you'll also be able to go get Planeswalkers with it. We just saw Nicol Bolas. We'll talk about him in a second. Saved him for last. So the ability to put creatures and Planeswalkers out for free is obviously super good, and the last few times Wizards has designed cards that allow you to put stuff on the battlefield for free, those cards have been fairly broken. Like, mostly, like, I would say that the expertises aren't incredibly broken, obviously. Those haven't seen all the play in the world. But Aetherworks Marvel is a good example of a very broken card that allows you to cheat mana, more or less, you know. And so effects like that are obviously, like, broken 50% of the time. And I don't think that Samut is broken, but there are ways that you can cheat her to 7 loyalty in Standard right now. And that's kind of exciting, but it takes a lot of building around, and I'm just not sure how much it'll work. We'll have to wait and see, but again, my first inclination is that this card is not as good as Arlen, and Arlen already doesn't see play. You know, the +1 to double strike something is not great at first glance. You know, if you play something fairly big on turn 3, then the ability to give it double strike on turn 4, no questions asked, seems okay. You know, we've got a lot of, you know, 4 power guys on turn 2 in this format, so being able to swing for 8 doesn't seem bad. And there are play lines where I see that +1 being pretty good. You know, you could always, like, turn 2, put a 4 power guy out, whether it's Greenwood Liberator, Blood Rage Brawler, or whatever, Exemplar of Strength even, you know, multiple things, a Heart of Kirin, for that matter. Although I'm not sure that Heart would work for what we're doing here. But anyway, you can play a 4 power guy turn 2, and then like you play Ronus turn 3, this turn 4, and then suddenly you can swing like 10 with Ronus. Seems good. Or you could swing the 2-drop for 8 and then Ronus for 5. So all that's good, but I'm not sure how good that play line actually is. I'm really not. Sounds powerful, but it's not going to happen every game or anything. I'm just not sure that Samut is all the way there. I am really not in love with that +1. End of the day, even though you can come up with good play lines for it, obviously, I'm not a huge fan of her +1. And her -2 protects herself, technically, you know, but I'm just, you know, there are going to be some games where you can kill 2 guys with her -2. So that's awesome and all, but it's not going to happen all the time. It's really not going to happen all the time. You'll often kill 1 guys. In some games, it'll be the inverse. Some games you won't be able to kill any guys with her -2, which is, that's really feel bad. But I don't know, man. Like, she technically protects herself, but not very well. Her +1's not great, you know. In a way, this kind of just sounds like Arlen all over again. You know, so I'm just not sure. We'll have to break her ultimate before I'm convinced, but that's the only way I can see of making the card good. Well, we got one more card to talk about, and I've already name-dropped him. I might as well go ahead and show you Nicol Bolas. Daddy's back, ladies and gentlemen. Nicol Bolas, God-Pharaoh. He's 4 in Grixis colors, 4 blue and a black and a red. For a 7 loyalty Planeswalker. 7 mana for a 7 loyalty Planeswalker. It's not awful, I guess. You can +2 him. So technically, you can +2 him the first turn he comes out, and he's a 9 loyalty Planeswalker. That sounds better. But anyway, you can +2 him. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of his or her library until he or she exiles a non-land card. Until end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its casting cost. You can +1 him. Each opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand. You can -4 him to have him deal 7 damage to an opponent or a creature that an opponent controls. And you can -12 him. That's a lot, but he starts at 7. You know, you can -12 him to exile each non-land permanent that your opponents control. If I had one complaint, which I don't really, but if I had one complaint about this Nicol Bolas, it's that, like, I don't see a ton of flavor on the card. I just see, like, a bunch of extremely powerful effects, which I'm not actually complaining about. To be honest with you, that's pretty sweet. He's another Planeswalker with 4 abilities. We haven't seen a whole lot of those, you know. So he's definitely playable, and he's going to be marveled out more than once, especially once we rotate Ulamog in the fall. If they don't ban Aetherworks Marvel, I see this guy being the next big thing that Marvel wants to get out. He's at least more fair than Ulamog, probably, right? I think so. But aside from, he's not fair, though. Like, he might be more fair than Ulamog, but I don't know that he's fair. 7 mana is an awful lot, so if you're hard casting him, you're going to have to do some work, especially in this color combination. So there's that. But he's really good. All of his abilities are really good. As far as his, exile 2 cards from their hand, if you're playing this for 7 mana, if you're hard casting it, I don't see that being extremely great. Although you might be exiling the last 2 cards from their hand, which is always good. So there's that to at least point out. But that's probably the one I'm least impressed by. But it'll come in handy sometimes. But as far as that first ability, that is fantastic, especially for +2. +2 for this is crazy. You get like a pseudo Gonti, which is crazy. You don't get to just hold on to the card forever. It's until end of turn. So that's important, but that's powerful. That is extremely powerful to be able to basically spin a marble. I keep saying marble, but you're doing that for your opponent. Just the first non-land thing you hit, you get to just have, and that's that's so good. And yeah, you'll whiff, you'll hit like a 1 or 2 drop thing, but you're still getting card advantage off of it, no matter what. You're playing your opponent's deck for him, and note that like all the lands that you hit, just exile. They're gone forever. So like that's important too. You're not going to mill them out that way, but you at least get to deprive them of some resources, which is pretty sweet too, So all in all, that first ability is probably either my most favorite part of the card or my second favorite, because that third ability, hit for 7, is super insane. That is, I cannot hammer home enough how dope that is. Like, you can do it twice in 3 turns if you just +1 or 2 in between there. So being able to hit for 14 guaranteed damage in a span of 3 turns is pretty sweet. That's a finisher. And if you got a problem creature that you're having, issues with, it'll sometimes be the better decision to just take that guy out. But very often I imagine you're just going to dome them, you're just going to smack them for 7 upside the head. And they can't do that more than twice. Technically, if you're able to pull this off 3 times, you won the game. So that third ability is just crazy, and it's probably what you're going to be working towards, I would imagine, on this card the most often. Although his ultimate is crazy. If you get to his ultimate, you win. You win the game. Just exile everything you control. All my stuff's still here. So that's good. It's obviously really good, but I'm probably mostly going to be concentrating on just like hit you for 7, +1, hit you for 7. It seems like that's probably the best thing you can do with the card. Just overall, the card is obviously extremely powerful. Everything he does is really desirable. You're going to want to do all of this at some point in the game. But 7 mana is a pretty good foil. But again, we've got stuff like Marvel can get this down turn 4. No problem. So I don't know. But again, once rotation hits, I think that I would rather see them hit this with a Marvel than an Ulamog. Maybe. It takes a couple of turns to kill you at least. So there's that. But I don't know, man. I think that the card is fantastic, but if it's not being marveled into play, it's going to be in a very specific deck. And I don't know that these colors, unless you're playing a 5-color deck, I don't know that these colors are, if Grixis control is a thing, it might play a 1-of Nicol Bolas, but I don't know that they even want to tap out on turn 7. So I think the card will have to find a home outside of Aetherworks Marvel to be truly relevant. So there's that. But the card is obviously so ridiculously powerful that people are going to want to find a home for it. We might see a Grixis mid-range deck, I'll call it mid-range, that plays permanents and plays sorceries like Dark Intimations. Obviously, you got to bring that card up. That card's a thing now, so there's that. But I can't wait to see what the actual impact of Nicol Bolas is. Because I think that we're going to have to, outside again of Aetherworks Marvel, we're going to have to find a home for him, and that may actually be easier said than done. Just because the card is extremely powerful in a vacuum doesn't mean it's going to be very easy to actually play in practice. So can't wait to see what we all come up with. That's all I got for now, at least. Tomorrow morning, you should be getting the deck tech. That's going to be really fun. I'm actually not going to tell you yet. I'm not going to tell you yet. I'm going to tell my Patreon people right after I get done with this. If you pledge $1 a month, you get to know what decks I'm doing before I actually do them. So if you're interested in that, check out patreon.com/SBMTG and get over there and see what we're doing tomorrow because I'm really excited about it. I actually think this deck is really fun. But anyway, we're doing something tomorrow. Go ahead and let you know that. You can follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev, and you can just check out our channel if you want to. You can like the video. You know, we got stuff that you'll enjoy. So do those things. Liking the video helps me out a lot. And I guess we'll probably be seeing more previews very soon, I would imagine. I was not ready for this, especially for Nicol Bolas. Not ready. You can see that I'm cheesing. So just make sure you do all the YouTube stuff, and I will try to calm down a little bit and edit this video. I'll see you guys later in the morning. As a matter of fact, I'm Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards. I want to keep talking about this, but I'm going to let you guys take over. See me in the comments. Let me know how you feel about these cards. Thanks for watching, guys.